It has been almost a century since the flames of conflict were lit between Israel and Hamas, plunging the Middle East into a spiral of tension that persists. During these almost 100 days, President Biden's administration has struggled to quell the fire of war, fearing a regional expansion that could distance American forces from stability. However, instead of calming the waters, tensions have flared. In a surprising turn, Iran has admitted responsibility for a recent attack in western Pakistan, expanding the conflict to another country. The target was a village in the sprawling southwestern province of Balochistan. Tehran claims its target was Jaish al-Adl, also known as the Army of Justice, an ethnic Baloch Sunni Muslim group that has unleashed attacks on government forces in both Pakistan and Iran. Recently, Jaish al-Adl attacked a police station in Rask, near the border with Pakistan. The attack in Balochistan resulted in the tragic loss of 2 lives and left 3 children injured. In response, the Pakistani government recalled the Iranian ambassador and blocked the return of Tehran's envoy. This episode follows Iran's attacks on targets in Iraq and Syria earlier in the week. Although Islamabad denounces the attack as illegal and warns of serious consequences, in Davos, Iranian Foreign Minister Josian Amir Abdullahian maintains that they only targeted Iranian terrorists on Pakistani soil. He claims to have spoken with his Pakistani counterpart to reiterate respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Pakistan and Iraq. This latest airstrike comes amid rising tensions in the Middle East, exacerbated by the escalating conflict between Israel and the Palestinian group Hamas in Gaza. Tehran insists on avoiding a broader conflict, but factions of the so-called Axis of Resistance, such as the Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah in Lebanon and various factions in Syria and Iraq, have launched attacks against Israel in solidarity with the Palestinians. In light of these events, the United States and the United Kingdom carried out airstrikes against the Houthis in response to their actions against merchant ships. China has urged Pakistan and Iran to show restraint and avoid actions that could trigger escalation, underscoring its consideration of both countries as close neighbors. In this tense scenario, the world watches cautiously, waiting for a resolution that will restore calm to a region mired in uncertainty. Driven by the shadow of recent deadly attacks on its soil, Iran appears hell-bent on a quest for revenge against those it considers responsible. In a context of growing regional tensions, the Persian nation seeks to project an image of strength, assuring its population that acts of violence will not go unpunished. At the same time, it exhibits its military capacity with missile attacks in the region. Just 2 weeks ago, Iran experienced its worst internal attack since the Islamic Revolution, when 2 bombs claimed the lives of 84 people during a ceremony in Kerman, intended to commemorate the assassination of the renowned Iranian Revolutionary Guard General, Qasem Soleimani, by the United States. Earlier this week, Iran unleashed a barrage of ballistic missiles on Kurdish-held Syria and northern Iraq. Tehran claimed its target was the Islamic State and the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad, both linked to the Kerman attacks. The impact in Iraq hit a building in the northern city of Erbil, where local officials reported the tragic loss of 4 lives and 6 people injured. The United States strongly condemned the attack. Iran then directed its missiles towards Syria's northwestern province of Idlib, the last opposition stronghold in the country and home to 2.9 million displaced people. However, the escalation reaches a dramatic level as it heads towards its eastern neighbor, nuclear-armed Pakistan. Islamabad's outrage was palpable, highlighting that the attack occurred despite the existence of various channels of communication between both nations. In response, they announced the withdrawal of the Iranian ambassador and his ban on returning to the country for the moment. Although Pakistan and Iran maintain a delicate but cordial relationship, this attack took place on the same day that the Prime Minister of Pakistan met the Foreign Minister of Iran in Davos, while the Iranian and Pakistani navies carried out joint military maneuvers in the Gulf. The region, already immersed in a web of complex relationships, faces a dangerous crossroads in the midst of this escalation of hostilities. For years, Pakistan and Iran have traded mutual accusations over sheltering militant groups carrying out attacks on their shared borders. Security along the nearly 900-kilometer common boundary has been a persistent concern for both governments. Iran's recent attack appears to have hit the village of Sabz, located about 45 kilometers from the Iranian border and 90 kilometers from Panjgur, the nearest town. Local officials describe the area as sparsely populated, inhabited by Baloch tribes dedicated to livestock and marked by the smuggling of goods, drugs, and weapons. Sam Khan, security analyst, reflects on the aftermath of the attack. Residents on both sides of the border feel deprived of basic needs, discriminated against and excluded from greater participation in their own resources. In Iran, the Sunni Muslim Baloch minority complains of discrimination in a predominantly Shiite Muslim province, while Baloch separatist groups continue to wage insurgents against the Pakistani government. According to the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, Jaish al-Adl, considered by both Washington and Tehran to be a terrorist organization, is the most active and influential militant group in Sistan Balochistan. Amir Rana, another security expert in Pakistan, comments, "The diplomatic crisis will take time to calm down. In the past, Pakistan did not react to Iran's actions along the border, but now the ball is in Iran's court, if it seeks to act correctly." With the recent U.S. attack on Yemen, the question is not whether there will be a regional conflict, but rather the intensity of the conflict and whether it can be contained. This is an outcome that no one wants, probably not even Iran. White House spokesman Jeff Kirby issued the following statement: "We are not seeking war with Yemen. We are not interested in any type of conflict. In fact, everything the president is doing, including last night's attacks, is trying to avoid any escalation of the conflict." Biden's decision to carry out airstrikes, after resisting calls to act against Houthi militants based in Yemen, marks a clear shift in strategy. After issuing a series of warnings, Biden was forced to act following missile and drone attacks on a U.S. cargo ship and the Navy ships surrounding it the previous day, according to official sources. Hug Lovat, a Middle East expert at the European Council on Foreign Relations, highlights the evolution of what is now considered a regional war that has transcended the confines of Gaza, spreading to Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. Lovat notes that Washington seeks to demonstrate its readiness to deter Iranian provocations, which is reflected in the apparently rapid response of its aircraft carriers and deployed forces. However, this position also leaves the United States in a more exposed position in the complex geopolitical fabric of the region. Over 12 weeks, attacks against Israeli, American, and Western interests have emanated from Lebanon, Iraq, and Syria, prompting carefully targeted and measured responses from American and Israeli forces. This panorama suggests a dynamic of escalation and measured response, where each action triggers a proportional reaction, although the delicate and volatile situation keeps the region in a state of constant alert. In this context, the United States' ability to manage tensions and avoid uncontrolled escalation becomes a critical challenge. The rapid and seemingly calculated response seeks to send a clear message, but the complexity of relations in the region raises questions about the effectiveness of these measures in containing the crisis and avoiding a broader regional conflict. Uncertainty persists in a scenario where each strategic move can have significant consequences.